Got 120 speeches every summer for 17 years. I'm good, baby. Thank you all for being here. I am here to share a few words and stories about my father and my middle school, high school principal, Dave Lehman. As Karl introduced me, I am Maggie Lehman Hilliard, Dave and Judy's youngest daughter, and thus, in a way, as LACS is a mom and pop school, I am LACS's baby sister, as new junior high program, which grew into LACS, was started the academic year before I was born. So that's why it says 50 years here. I have only known my father to be the founding principal of this wonderful school and place. I also only know of him with a beard, of which he became rather proud, though the photos of him pre-beard era are very awesome, and he looks a lot like my brother. When I think of his beard and why he never shaved it, I am reminded of the Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young song, a group he loved and took us to see live several times. Yeah. Almost cut my hair, happened just the other day. It was getting kinda long. I could have said it my way, wasn't my way, but I didn't, and I wonder why. I feel like letting my freak flag fly, and I feel like I owe it to someone. I think more than a comfortable way to style himself, it was a statement and a reminder to be himself, for himself, and as an example to others that they are welcome as they are. It is moments like this that are essentially small, but become grand in the greater web of who Dave was. Gathering thoughts for today felt like trying to drink from a fire hose. So much content. My mind has gone to the books he was reading recently or returning to, the songs he loved, his many passions, reasons he became an educator, things that he was writing recently, moments when I saw him in flow, trees and places important to him. In each of these, I can see a thread of his personal family, Dad, and the same thread reaching to all of you in this community. This mother lode of content was starting to overwhelm me, until, thanks to my daughter's interest, she's up there somewhere, in Spider-Man and spiders, I started thinking about webs, and then literally bolted awake in the middle of the other night, shouting, "Concept map!" Where are you, Flurledge? Is he here? Here you are. To which my non-ACS Ithaca-raised husband was like, WTF, what is happening? And I replied, it's an ACS thing. I'll return to that idea in a moment. And so this is what began happening for me. Tried to make it. I know you can't really see this, but it is massive and interwoven and everything connects. So that will give you the visual of what it's like to think about Dad and what he has meant and touched in his lifetime. Upon hearing of Dad's passing, I received many notes and lovely memories from friends and classmates and members of this wonderful community that has grown from LACS. One caught me off guard for a moment. They said along the lines of, "I'm so sorry to hear of your loss. And then I keep forgetting that he was your dad. I can't imagine what that must be like for you." I paused at that a moment because part of me thought privately, inwardly, yes, this is my dad and my family. And also, well, I've only known him as deeply a part of LACS. I have always shared him. I don't know anything else but to see him caring for, scheming about, dreaming of, and constantly building this place for growing knowledge, community, and meeting with others. And so he sort of is your dad, too.
Aww.
To illustrate that a bit further, a fond memory or series of memories I have of my father is that he has a stash of candies, like chocolate kisses or peppermints that you get from Pizza Hut, or Andes Mints, those lollipop sticks. I can't remember what they're called. It's the stick that's like lollipop material, though. He just had a stash, always there in his sock drawer on the left side. You might think I'm going to tell you how I stole from this drawer, because that would be rather easy, but I never did. I know about the sock drawer stash because whenever I had a particularly bad knee scrape, bee sting, or eventually even heartbreaks, he would comfort me, patch me up from his doctor's kit. Have you seen the doctor's kit? He brought it on Bike Group a lot. And then he let me choose a sweet to boost my spirit from the sock drawer. While this is a very Dave and Maggie father-daughter story, I happen to know that he also had a stash in his desk drawer in the principal's office. And so some of you have been offered a sweet, staff and students alike, when you encountered a particular bruising moment. So it is your moment with Dave, too, of compassion and mending together, and a little sweet tooth to carry on. I'd said I'd come back to it's an LACS thing, or an ACS thing, sorry, it's my era. When I first met my husband as someone who grew up in California his whole life and knew nothing about LACS or Ithaca, as he learned about my history and my family and ACS, while he understood somewhat of how having a father that was also a principal, what that would be like, he had no concept of the alternative community and how deeply bonded and rooted that is. Until one day, early in our dating, Dad was in town for an alternative ed conference. This is San Francisco at the time. And so we met up for dinner, and I decided to take him to a restaurant that some Ithaca folk and ACS alum had started recently. Mostly, I was thinking that the food was delicious and Dad would get a kick to see a familiar Ithaca thing all the way in San Francisco. Honestly, in the several times I'd been to the restaurant, oddly, I'd never actually encountered any of the ACS community, though I knew several who worked there and who were part of running it. So it was not on my radar that we'd see an alumna. And sure enough, the person serving our group was an alumna. Someone after my time, so I didn't know them personally. Well, this person saw my dad and just about fainted. Fully tears and big, huge hugs and a long reconnection. It was a beautiful reunion. And for them and my dad, this dad clearly meant a lot to this person. I didn't think anything of it, as this is the norm for our family and the ACS community when encountering Dad. Then I looked at my husband, who was shocked and confused by the response, wondering if my father was in fact a fifth Beatle he'd never known about. Thus began the many moments where the very usual would happen for me that would be very unusual for my husband. And now I simply say, it's an ACS thing, and he knows exactly now. I told you there was a theme from the concept map. So as I looked at this further, I saw the web, and more so a tree, specifically the tree of life symbol. For as long as I can remember, Dad has worn a tree of life symbol on a long necklace tucked in his shirt. This one. Thanks for lending it to me, Mama. It's right here. Just, and it's sort of it's a circle with a tree inside a circle. This also brought me back to the stack of books he'd been reading most recently. Specifically the book, Finding the Mother Tree, Discovering the Wisdom of the Forest by Suzanne Simard. Dad forever annotated his books to the point where we had to go erasing a bunch from some library books he'd borrowed last year. Sorry, library. This passage was highlighted, and I think you'll see why.